Let me tell you some choices that Trinity was mentioning. It could be about peace. It could be about mountains and nature. It could be about love. What do you think we would all be good at writing a song about?
Drowning and the need to prove oneself.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Musicking Podcast. I am your host Trinity Lay, and today we are joined by professional music therapist and founder of Music Therapy Care, LLC, Shonda Malik. With her, we'll be exploring the regenerative property of music when it is used in treatment for those with neurodegenerative diseases, including individuals with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and recent stroke and head trauma patients. Throughout this episode, you'll hear clips taken from music therapy sessions that I conducted along with another student in a course given through the University of Cincinnati. The quality may vary due to these sessions being held on Zoom, but they will all be small examples of some activities that we did together. I would like to thank the couple that we were paired with, Kathy and Dave, for letting me use these clips and for all of the joy, engagement, and enthusiasm they brought to these sessions. So this episode is going to be quite different than the ones that I've previously done. Previous 2 episodes were more about music theory and about music and culture and different music systems from different areas of the world. But I wanted to introduce the idea that music is also used for a different purpose, and it's used for a different audience and in a different field, I guess, music and medicine. What was your journey like getting in the field of music therapy, and how would you best describe your line of work?
So my journey to find music therapy, I started out in my undergrad in a Bachelor's of Music program, undecided on my major. And during my freshman year, I came across an article just in like a Young Miss magazine or something similar, and it described work as a music therapist. And I'm like, well, that's perfect. I can use my talent for music and my desire to help others and combine it. So then I had to go through the process of changing my school. And so I moved from Capital University in Columbus, and I entered a program at Ohio University in Athens. And that's where I did my Bachelor's of Music Therapy.
And did you have to do like a lot of medical related classes, or how was that education wise?
Yeah, we did have some. We had to take anatomy, we had to take chemistry, we had to take child development, like statistics, so we'd be able to understand research that goes into music therapy. So it was a well-balanced curriculum.
And what are the variety of things that you use your music therapy knowledge for, different circumstances or people you work with?
Well, I am in private practice, which gives me the opportunity to work with a lot of different populations, from the youngest, the elderly in dementia settings, and I've also done hospice work.
The way that I kind of became aware of music therapy and how it's used as a younger student, like I'd say around middle school or high school, I'd hear a lot of stories about people with memory-related diseases and them being able to recall musical memories and musical skills while other memories would be affected. The connection between, the neurological and the science behind it wasn't really, I guess, well known at that time, or at least to that age group. So I always thought it was like it added to the mystery of music. But then there was a class that they offered here at UC that went over the science behind it and how music actually interacts with the brain and the memory systems, and why it is that music is something that people with these diseases can recall. And so could you talk a little bit about that aspect of it, the procedural versus explicit memories, and why it is that music therapy is effective in treatment with people with neurological diseases?
So I've done a considerable amount of work over the years in dementia settings. And you're right. It's like it used to be like a fascinating aspect that the people who were beginning to lose their ability to have spontaneous conversation could still, when a song was presented that they're familiar with, be able to sing all the lyrics from beginning to end. And nowadays, the technology has caught up, so brain scans can now show how music is being processed in the brain. So like research projects that show sections of the brain that light up when you are processing spoken word versus the parts of the brain that light up when you're hearing music. And there's lots of section for speech, and there's lots of sections of the brain for music, and there is also some overlap. So when you consider that someone has either had a traumatic brain injury or a stroke, or they have a neurodegenerative process occurring in their brain, and a part of the brain that processes speech has been damaged, there's many other areas of the brain that process music that can possibly still be intact. So for that reason is why music can be an effective tool in helping them to build back some communication skills if it's like a traumatic brain injury or a person who survived a stroke, or it can help retain function and give a person who has Alzheimer's or other dementia or even Parkinson's ability to express themselves vocally in a way that can be very joyful and expressive when they've otherwise lost that ability.
Music is not something that just accesses these parts of the brain that might have been damaged, but they also help rebuild them. I didn't know that previously. That's very cool.
Yeah, because we do know that the brain is the neuroplasticity of it, so you can make new connections when you're able to access the parts that are still healthy and have someone learn how to sing their name or sing just simple phrases when they're not able to speak them yet. But then you practice it with them through song to the point where they can remove the song and still have the speech. That's the rebuilding of a skill through music therapy.
So in the next example, we try to do something very similar. The individual that we were working with had Lewy body dementia, and so occasionally when he would try to say something, he'd have trouble articulating his thoughts and his words. So at this point, we were trying to brainstorm some ideas for a song, and we really wanted to hear his thoughts, and so I asked him to try and sing what he was thinking. Instead, he sang just a melody, but even though he didn't actually sing his thoughts, that was still really great, and you kind of want to take what's given and run with it. And so we took that melody and turned it into the melody, the main theme of our song.
Do you want to try to sing a scale about December or drowning or self-worth? Just sing something.
Loving, I ran out of voicing notes.
That's beautiful.
So we took that little melody and we altered it a little bit to fit within, 4 beats per measure. And so we got something like dum dum da 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 dum dum da 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 da. And then later he would add some of, his own lyrics, and then we'd all input our own ideas and added accompaniment, and we'd sing it together very frequently. So it was a lot of fun to do this project. And so when it comes to music therapy, there's also things that loved ones can do at home with their own family members or friends who have memory-related diseases. And I wanted to kind of maybe introduce some ideas that people can play with at home. When I was taking this class, we first went over the mindset that we needed to have when going into working with these individuals. And one thing that was pushed in the curriculum is that we should always have an open mind and not try to go against the flow and stick to a schedule that we want to have or certain activities. If the person that we're working with has inclination to do something else or is doing something else that we didn't ask of them, then we should try and incorporate that somehow into it. So what are some things that you try and...
That's great. Yeah, a person-centered or client-centered approach is definitely what we do, many of us as music therapists in practice, to meet our client where they're at in that moment so that we can build upon a strength or build upon something that's interesting them instead of asking them to do something. Another good mindset is just to be playful and to be like spontaneous and to kind of let your inhibitions down when it comes to like, well, I don't know how to play an instrument or I've never played an instrument, but it can be fun just to like bang on a pot or pan or make a rhythm, because that, takes away whether they're having a challenge with speech. To play some rhythms on an instrument or something you find around the house can alleviate that barrier of speech.
And do you ever find that the people that you're working with have like a reluctance starting out or like difficulty starting out? Is there something that you do to try and create a mood or like a mindset when going in?
Well, what's nice with patients with dementia is they have kind of lost that sense of inhibition. Mm-hmm. So they're just willing to be in that moment and create with you. So it would be more about encouraging the caregivers not to have that sense of inhibition, to just go ahead and be playful and creative in the moment. I have found that patients that are perhaps like a survivor of stroke might have a little hesitancy, saying that, I wasn't a musician or I don't have practice on an instrument or never taken, lessons. But that's not what we're striving for. We're wanting them to use the innate rhythms that most people can, find and experience if they give themselves a chance, and then to create music.
Something that you mentioned is that a big part of the process is also working with the caregiver when it comes to music therapy. And it's also very beneficial to the caregiver to be able to interact with, their loved one in a playful and musical way, and it relieves some of the stress.
Yeah. It can be a very joyful experience for them. A caregiver also has a lot of insight as to what music the patient would be familiar with. So that's very key, is to have music of preference and music that they're familiar with. If they're a person that's having trouble with spoken word, but you want them to try to sing, you need to make sure it's a song that they're familiar with for them to be able to sing it. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have that familiarity. And then once they do explore with their person making the music, it can be very relieving that they're bringing to their loved one an opportunity for verbal expression that they've lost. Mm-hmm. So to be able to sing with them can be a very positive, memorable experience.
In this example, we're trying to work around the Zoom latency issues, which made it hard to do musical activities together at the same time. And so what we had done here is that everybody would sing a bass pitch, and then one person at a time would sing like a random line or improvise over it. They would just do like a scale or da over it, and it was very easy, very simple. And we did this because our two partners, they had previously sung in choirs together. So this was an activity that they had once done together, and we wanted to try and get them doing it again.
Now it's your turn.
In this class, we also got the chance to work with a couple, one who had a memory-related disease and then their care partner. And the first meeting that we ever had, we just went over, their past with music and any musical activities or instruments they used to play and what they enjoy to listen to or what they do currently together musically and things that they wanted to do. So when you start sessions, what are things that you try and learn about the person you're working with, or the couple that you're working with, I should say, and how do you kind of go about creating activities?
Yeah. So a lot of what you just described is exactly what we do with them. We ask them about what type of music they've been engaged with, what type of music they've listened to, important songs that they've been part of their lives. A lot of times it's important to ask about the music that was really prevalent for them when they were in their 20s, or the time in their life where they might have had more opportunity to explore and have interest in music before they got busy with, a career and things like that. And then the way that we build that in is, if we're going to try to do singing lyrics to a song, we're going to pick a song that we know for sure they've listed as one that they would recall. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you just try and sing the exact song? Would you try and build off of it, or have them create something, or what's some other things that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it would depend on what our goal is. So if we have a person who is trying to redevelop their ability to talk, we might use a familiar melody line and then have them sing new words into it. Mm-hmm. But we would start with them just having them sing the song as it is original. And then if we find that that could be a tool for them to learn a new phrase, we might use the melody and put new words to it. Now, we might also make up melodies sometimes for the same purpose of they're still having difficulty saying a sentence, but if we set it to a melodic line, they're able to sing a sentence. And so we practice that with them until we can take the music away and they're able to speak the sentence. It would just depend on what it is their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
So in this example, we had taken the song Fly Me to the Moon and had taken things that we were looking forward to or things that we were happy about and turned them into the lyrics of the song. And we had done this in the previous session, but now we were kind of building off of that song that we had created and we were tapping along with it. You really only hear me because of, Zoom again, but this is one of the ways that you can build off of previous activities and keep them going.
Max went to the gym, and Dave is wearing real warm clothes. Kathy flew to LA, and Trin's friends were in a show. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
We did something similar with the couple that we were paired with in our class. We wanted to just create a song pretty much. And so the individual that we were working with had a musical background. So sometimes he would hum something and we'd take that and we'd turn it into a melody and we'd use it throughout the piece. And then during the week, we'd ask him to maybe try and think of some lyrics that he wanted to implement into the song. And previous to doing this exercise, he kind of had trouble recalling specific moments throughout the week that he enjoyed or things that he remembered, because we'd always check in with him. We'd be like, oh, what are things you enjoyed? What are things that you weren't too happy about? And so on. But when we started doing the song project, he would be able to remember making the lyrics for that and going over the melody with that, and he'd be able to mention it during the check-in session. So it was nice to see that it created these markers throughout the week that he could remember and go back to.
Now, anything you're glad about?
The fact that we've been able to come up with real clear words.
Talk about the verse for the music? So he's glad about
All the
that.
lyrics he made.
Yeah, that reminds me of a project I had done with a client. This particular client had dementia, and we were doing music therapy. And during our first session, we were exploring his music of preference, and I was having him play a drum along to it. And so we would always start out our sessions with about 20 minutes of music making. And then I would ask him about his family and his children. And so during the first session, he talked about just one of his kids in particular that just happened to be on his mind. And he was pointing out some patio furniture that she had refinished for him. And so when we sat back down to make some more music, I took some of the points that he had shared about his daughter and I put it into a song. So I used a familiar song, You Are My Sunshine, and I put all of the descriptions of his daughter into the song and I sang it for him. And he was very pleased with that. So that was our first session, and we decided that what our project would be, he had 8 children. So each session we would have a different one of his kids that we would feature. So we would start with our 20 minutes of music making to help him be able to access memories. And then I would ask him about a particular child, and we would create lyrics and set it to a song that was familiar to him. And then we would video that so that they would always have that memory of their dad and what he remembered about them.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, is there any specific musical activities with your clients that have stood out to you, and moments of like aha moments, I guess you could call them?
Well, recently I was privileged to work at a stroke retreat camp. So what it is it's a 3-day weekend where a stroke survivor and their loved one attend. And it's a lot about having a retreat, an opportunity to refresh, to be pampered. But we also have like breakout groups where just the caregivers get to meet and where just the stroke survivors get to meet. And so there's a lot of good therapy that happens over the weekend. And so I work that stroke camp as the music therapist. So we get to start out the weekend with a drum circle. We get to have the first evening, we do a campfire, and we get to sing campfire songs. The second day, we get to have a performance night. We do pampering. We do a lot of fun stuff. And so at this particular stroke camp that I just did out in Phoenix, Arizona, we had 3 gentlemen who had had their strokes recently, and they were all experiencing aphasia, which meant they had a lot of difficulty speaking. When it would be their turn to talk in a group, they would try to express themselves, but for one gentleman, it would come out as a string of words that didn't make sense to everybody else. For a second gentleman, he would say the same sound over and over, which for him was 222, 222. And he was thinking, a different thought that he was expressing to us, but it was just coming out as that one word. And the third gentleman also was having trouble expressing himself. So he would be wanting to get a word out and having a lot of difficulty getting that word out. But when we had that Friday night campfire sing-along, myself and another music therapist noticed that they were singing the lyrics to the songs. Mm-hmm. So on Saturday night, we practiced on Saturday afternoons with each of them individually to pick a song that they were familiar with and could sing most of the words to. And then we had all 3 of them perform solos on Saturday night. And so for everybody else who hadn't yet been able to hear them express themselves clearly, It was like, wow, that music is helping them in a huge way to be able to sing the words like the song is meant to be sung.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big wow.
That's incredible.
It is.
And it's always wonderful when you have those aha moments, because it's like, wow, we can build off of this, and this can go any direction. Is there any activities that you suggest to just family settings and building up relationships with family members and bringing each other together? Something simple that just you can do in a family setting and at home.
Yeah. Well, movement is really important. So I think sometimes we don't really have dance as part of something that we would normally do at home. But if you turn on some music and just get up and move to it and dance with your loved one, that can be a very joyful experience. So I would encourage people to do that. I would encourage them to find something around the house that they can play like an instrument. So something that's kind of shakes like a maraca, or something you can tap on like a drum. Because rhythm is a very powerful means for the brain to process. So when we do melodic intonation therapy with a patient, part of that is helpful is to incorporate some tapping. So to get them to tap to a rhythmic beat can help the brain process speech. Mm-hmm. And it also helps with if people are working on their walk, which is called gait training. If they have an uneven walking pattern and you set a metronome beat to that, they can instantly have a very steady walk pattern. Mm-hmm. So the way that the brain processes rhythm and anticipates what it's hearing, it can help the brain regulate and get all the muscle movements to work together.
Going back to the importance of implementing movement, one of the most standout moments of these sessions was when we were just having a listening activity. We would listen and tap, and we were listening to a hoedown upbeat song, and the care partner put her hand up so that her partner could tap along with clap along to the music with both of their hands, and they seemed to have a lot of fun with that. That kind of spoke to the importance of movement and physical interaction along with these activities.
Yeah, tap my hand.
Yeah, that's another thing that I heard about patients with Parkinson's who were dancers formerly. When they listen to music, they're able to remember dance steps and be able to execute them in ways that if they weren't listening to music would be not as possible. But it's interesting how the music can also build up brain and also coordination and all of that.
Yeah.
Is there any frequent obstacles that you see popping up in working with clients, and are there any methods of working around them, or what's other advice that you'd like to offer to care partners who are interested?
I think something that would be helpful to keep in mind would be like the tempo of the song. So you might not want to present a song that has a really fast tempo, because that might be too challenging for them to keep up with, because their ability to process and get some song lyrics out might be more, able for them to do it if the tempo is slower. So take a song that's familiar, but then slow it down, and that will be helpful for them to be able to sing along.
And is there anything that you're looking forward to in your line of work or in your business? Any big projects that you're working on? Or is there anything in the field of music therapy that you are really excited about?
So when it comes to my career in music therapy, when I graduated from college, there weren't very many jobs available. So over the course of my past 20 years as a music therapist, it's been very exciting to see that more and more places are creating positions where music therapists can be employed. So like here locally, we have a good number of full-time music therapists working at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And just a few years back, Dayton Children's Hospital started music therapy positions. And so it's exciting for me to see that more and more places are becoming educated about what music is possible and all of the great things it can bring to patients in many different settings, whether it be hospitals or a school setting or a rehab setting or working hospice, working in nursing homes on dementia units, working school districts with children with autism, and to see all of those, that work becoming available is very exciting for our profession.
During these sessions, there was many things that didn't work, and there was a lot of learning to do. And each session, we'd learn new things about each other. And it was all about taking those new things and trying to find more ways for our partners to express themselves. And, during this project, it was so interesting to see all, images that our partner would talk about from dreams would reappear in his lyrics. And the lyrics that he wrote were so deep, and they were filled with his thoughts and worries and hopes. And it was just really incredible to see that. As a music student, it's very exciting to see more attention being drawn towards the long-term health benefits of engaging in musical activities, and not just like listening to music, like going to the orchestra or going to concerts, but just everyday people who aren't necessarily musicians actively engaging in creating music and participating in music. I think that music therapy is a really exciting field, and there are so many benefits and possibilities that haven't been fully understood or explored yet, and that's very encouraging because who knows what the possibilities are. You have all the tools you need to create fun and engaging musical activities with your loved ones at home. But this doesn't replace the knowledge, experience, and range of benefits that a professional music therapist can provide. If you live in the Cincinnati area and are interested in music therapy, I encourage you to check out Shonda's website, musictherapycare.com, where you can learn more about and book the variety of services her business offers. Also, be sure to check out the Cincinnati Music and Wellness Coalition. They're this wonderful organization that puts together events, educational events. They work with schools, a variety of immigrant populations, senior populations, and rehab centers with some programs that are group-based, and they focus on piano and drums. They're the ones that got me connected with the music therapist for this episode, and I'm so thankful for all the support they provided towards my interest in music and brain health. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Music King podcast. Our next episode will be focusing on the toll tradition of the Uttarakhand region with ethnomusicologist Stefan Fiol. Dr. Fiol has been my advisor on this project since the very beginning, so I'm very excited to finally have him as a guest on this episode. I hope you tune in.